Well, good morning, everybody. Esteemed delegates, President Kim, Secretary Kerry, my name is Mike Froman. I serve as the U.S. Trade Representative, and on behalf of President Obama and his entire administration, I'm pleased to welcome you to Washington, D.C., and to this 13th annual AGOA Forum Ministerial. As you all know, this ministerial takes place on the eve of the first ever U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, the theme of which is investing in the next generation. And this ministerial takes place just over a year before the expiration of the legislation authorizing AGOA. So this meeting provides a particularly unique and timely opportunity to discuss AGOA, the U.S.-Africa trade and investment relationship, and how to develop both further. I'd like to open this ministerial by first thanking President Kim and his colleagues here at the World Bank for hosting us today. President Kim has dedicated his life to international development and to improving the lives of underserved populations worldwide. And we're very fortunate to have him here at the World Bank. And the World Bank, of course, has been a key partner in our efforts to spur trade-led economic growth in Africa and throughout the world. So, President Kim, thank you for your hospitality. We look forward to working with you and your colleagues here at the World Bank as we strengthen and expand our relationships with our AGOA partners. And let me turn it over to you for opening comments.
Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you very much, everybody. Excellencies, Secretary Kerry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here today with you to launch these important discussions on the United States African Growth and Opportunity Act. I'll just make 2 points before turning to our keynote speakers today. The first is to remind ourselves that African countries have enormous potential to expand trade in order to drive growth, reduce poverty, and deliver jobs. Countries must now find the right approaches to take advantage of opportunities to greatly expand trade within Africa and throughout the world. One opportunity, for instance, is in the light manufacturing sector, which could help African countries in terms of industrialization, export diversification, and job creation. Recent analysis from our group suggests that if this sector grows in Africa at the same speed it did in East Asia, it could create 7 million new jobs on the continent. Exploiting export opportunities in agriculture and agribusiness is also essential to reducing poverty in many countries. Trade preference schemes such as AGOA, now in its 15th year, have played an important role in helping Africa realize this opportunity. AGOA helps African countries diversify their exports and move away from dependence on minerals and commodities to reach more diversified and inclusive sources of export growth. AGOA has also played a key role in increasing exports and employment in the apparel sector in countries such as Lesotho and Madagascar, attracting foreign investment and generating new jobs in the private sector. In Madagascar, for instance, thanks to AGOA and a set of proactive and targeted policies, apparel now accounts for a larger share of exports than any other industry. My second point is that in order for African countries to realize their export potential and take full advantage of AGOA, they must address several constraints. One is an infrastructure challenge. Our studies show that the poor state of infrastructure in sub-Saharan Africa, including electricity, water, roads, and ICT, cuts countries' economic growth by 2 percentage points every year and reduces business productivity by as much as 40%. A second constraint is a lack of capacity of local firms and workers. There are few industry-specific training institutions dedicated to the apparel industry, and the ones that do exist often don't provide skills that meet the needs of employers. The last constraint is that policy reforms are needed to improve trade and competitiveness and support the development of competitive firms across the value chain. We believe it will be critical to reduce barriers to regional integration of goods, services, and investment. Following trips with the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon last year, for instance, we're building regional economic integration efforts in both the Great Lakes and the Sahel regions of Africa. More intensive regional integration will give African firms the opportunity to exploit nearby markets, gain knowledge and experience, achieve economies of scale, and increase their competitiveness in the U.S. and in global markets. A range of non-tariff and regulatory barriers still raise the transaction costs and limit the movement of goods, services, people, and capital across borders. The end result is that Africa has integrated with the rest of the world faster than within its own borders. The costs of these regional trade barriers fall disproportionately on the poor. Building better regional linkages means more than simply removing tariffs. It's about addressing real-world constraints that paralyze the daily operations of ordinary producers and traders. We hope that AGOA will continue beyond 2015. We also hope AGOA strengthens so that Africa's doors to trade with the world open even more widely. For that to happen, I urge those of you here today to focus your discussions on a few key proposals, including increasing product coverage, relaxing rules of origin for non-apparel products, and recognizing the special needs of fragile states. Progress on these issues will help us not only ensure that AGOA's solid track record continues, but that it helps African economies expand their exports even more. We're committed to engaging and to helping African firms use AGOA and other trade programs to propel exports in the United States and across the world. It's now my great pleasure and honor to welcome Secretary Kerry, who was my senator for years when I lived in Massachusetts, who for more than a quarter century, I think dating back at least to 1990, has been calling on the United States leadership and world leaders to promote international trade, specifically for Africa. It's a great honor to have you here, Secretary Kerry, and we look forward to your remarks.
Well, President Kim, Jim, thank you very, very much for your welcome. Welcome to all of you here, and I appreciate the substance of your comments, and I also appreciate your generous comments regarding my privilege of being your senator. This is a very exciting week for us here in Washington, and we are really thrilled to welcome everybody here in this particular discussion and many others that are going to take place. And I need to beg your indulgence at the beginning of my comments. I have to speak and run, so to speak, because I have a series. We have so many presidents in the city over the next 3 days that I am beginning a marathon of bilat meetings this morning, as well as trying to fit in the number of events that we have, and I know you will understand that. I thank Jim Kim for his tremendous leadership of the bank and for hosting us here today. I want you all to know that one of the things I admire most about Dr. Kim is that wherever he has been in his life, whatever leadership role he has served in, this is a man who's been willing to challenge the status quo. And that was true when he found innovative ways to deliver health care in the Partners in Health. It was true when he applied himself to finding new ways to provide care for HIV and AIDS at the World Health Organization. And when I was in the Senate, I did some work with him on that. And then it was true when he balanced the budget and led Dartmouth College through its critical period of transition. So we welcome his leadership here. What I think many of you may not know is that when he was in high school, he was a quarterback. And those of you who know American football have to just imagine what it was like for this young guy about 10 years after he arrived in America. He was facing down big Midwestern linebackers. And there's no better preparation for today's world and life than that. A few decades later, he was working, revolutionizing really how HIV and AIDS was going to be dealt with. And I was in the Senate, and we were working then to try to find a way to create stronger trade links with Africa, particularly with sub-Saharan Africa. And for several years, with the help of somebody you all know well, I think, Jim McDermott, a former Foreign Service officer and member of Congress at the time, we discussed creative ideas about how to break down the barriers to trade while at the same time lifting up the standards for governance and for transparency. And the result of those early efforts was, in fact, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act that President Clinton signed into law in the last months of his presidency. So for 14 years now, as Michael Froman said, this is the 13th meeting annually, but for 14 years, AGOA has been one of the primary tools to push forward greater trade and investment in Africa. And guess what? It is working. We've seen imports from AGOA nations grow by 300%. whether it's cocoa and cashews from Ghana, or textiles from Mauritius, or petrochemical products from Angola. AGOA has served as a catalyst for greater trade and prosperity, and it's helped to promote greater protections for the African workforce. And yes, we do have some of our own interests on the line here too, and I say it up front. For instance, AGOA has made it possible for Ford Motor Company to export engines duty-free from South Africa, where Ford has invested over $300 million so they can supply engines worldwide. And the efficiencies of that operation have allowed Ford to create 800 new jobs at their Kansas City plant as part of the global production line. This is how it works. And this is what Africa is witnessing now with I think, something like 10 of the 15 fastest growing countries in the world in Africa. From day one in the White House, President Obama's #1 priority has been creating strong middle-class jobs here at home. But the President has always understood that the best way to do that is to strengthen our international economic ties and foster broad growth globally. Everybody here understands how interconnected we all are. Our populations are increasingly, all of them, walking around, in some countries more than others, with mobile devices. Everybody is connected to everybody every moment of the day. And that is changing the way people think. It's changing their sense of possibilities. It's changing aspirations, and it's changing realities of politics on the ground. As President Obama has said, Africa is a new center of global growth. Since 2000, banking assets have more than doubled. The telecommunications market has doubled since 2004 alone. And we know that Africa will have a larger workforce than India or China by 2040. So it's time simply to get ahead of the curve, to invest in education, above all, for the vast numbers of young people and the increasing numbers of people who, because of today's interconnectedness, are demanding their part of the future. That is much of what has been happening in places where we've seen tremendous upheaval of recent days, whether it's been Tunisia or Egypt or Syria or elsewhere. It's young people who motivated and energized those initiatives initially because of their sense of desire, frustration with the possibilities of the future. So it's time to build a more open exchange of ideas and information. That's part of the reason President Obama thought of doing the summit that he's having this week here in Washington. It's to lead to greater partnership, to build our capacity for innovation. And AGOA is one of the best tools, most vital tools for pushing forward the dramatic transformation that we're seeing today in parts of Africa. So this is clearly a moment of opportunity for all Africans. It's also, I say to you frankly, a moment of decision, because it's the decisions that are made or the decisions that are deferred that will ultimately determine whether Africa mines the continent's greatest natural resource of all. And that is not platinum, it's not gold, it's not oil, it's the talent and capacity and aspirations of its people. The entire Obama administration wants to unleash the potential, both for the benefit of the people of Africa and to create greater prosperity for the world. President Obama is committed to that transformation, and with a seamless renewal of AGOA, the question is, will we continue to create shared prosperity and a better future for both the people of the United States and the people of Africa and all of the others who benefit as a consequence? That is really the bottom line of what we are working to achieve today. And what we will work towards in anticipation of next year's AGOA Forum in Gabon, the first ever in Central Africa, is to achieve this goal. So I say unabashedly, we want and we will work hard to get more American companies to invest in Africa. We also want more African companies to invest here in the United States, and there's no reason that they shouldn't. The fact is, today, Africa is increasingly a destination for American investment. and tourism, and African institutions are increasingly leading efforts to solve African problems. All of this underscores that dramatic transformation is possible, and is possible in the next few years. Prosperity can actually replace poverty, and cooperation can actually triumph over conflict. So we know that our cooperation, all of us, is essential in order to promote economic growth that is shared by all Africans. I will say to you, fighting corruption is a definitive, critical part of that process. To do so will take courage. And yes, it sometimes means assuming risks. But fighting corruption lifts more than a country's balance sheet. Transparency and accountability attract greater investment. Transparency and accountability create a more competitive marketplace, one where ideas and products are judged by the market and by their merits, and not by a backroom deal or a bribe. The market always works better with transparency, with the sunshine of accountability. That is an environment where innovators and entrepreneurs can flourish, and I guarantee you it is an environment where capital makes a decision to move according to its sense of security and its sense of risk. So, ladies and gentlemen, Africa can be the marketplace of the future. Africa has the resources. Africa has the capacity. Africa has the know-how. The questions Africa faces are similar to those confronting countries all over the world. Is there the political will, the sense of common purpose to address challenges? Are we all prepared together to make the hard choices that those challenges require? We firmly believe, and I think you will sense, those of you who are here for all of the next 3 days, at the end of this summit, the end of these meetings, I believe you will have a clear sense of the fullness of the commitment of President Obama and the Obama administration and the United States to the notion that Africa is a natural partner of the United States and vice versa. And we believe that the United States can be a vital catalyst in Africa's continued transformation. It's exciting. The possibilities are endless. And we really look forward to working with you to fulfill the full measure of possibilities. So now I'd like to introduce or reintroduce the person who opened this. He doesn't need another introduction, but he's been working on these things, the ties between the United States and Africa, for a long time, within the Treasury Department, at the National Security Council, at Citibank, and he now serves as President Obama's principal advisor on international trade, Ambassador Michael Froman. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you for joining us this morning. We are very fortunate to have Secretary Kerry and the State Department as full partners in this overall effort, and he's been a tremendous advocate for trade and investment with Africa and economic policy more generally. Well, good morning, President Kim, President Kaberuka, Honorary Deputy Chairperson Mwencha, esteemed ministers from our AGOA partner countries, Secretaries Generals of the regional economic communities, honorable members of Congress, U.S. government colleagues, public and private sector supporters of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Welcome, and as I learned in Africa, let me say, all protocol observed. For the past 14 years, we and our predecessors have gathered representing more than 1.1 billion people, traveling thousands of miles, bearing as many as 41 flags and speaking 21 official languages, all for one reason, the promise of trade. AGOA is a powerful reminder of that promise. Since it was enacted in 2000, AGOA has been the cornerstone of U.S. trade policy with sub-Saharan Africa, and in broad strokes, it has been a success. From the first full year of AGOA to the last, U.S. imports from AGOA countries have grown threefold to more than $26 billion a year. Non-oil imports have increased fourfold, as has the stock of U.S. foreign direct investment. AGOA has contributed to the diversification and competitiveness of sub-Saharan Africa's economies and has supported hundreds of thousands of jobs across the continent. And what these broad strokes cannot capture is the importance of these opportunities for countless communities, families, and individuals. The United States has benefited from AGOA as well, not just from the stability that comes with increased global prosperity, but also from the market opportunities that accompany Africa's rise. Since 2000, U.S. exports to sub-Saharan Africa have increased fourfold, from $6 billion to $24 billion. And last year, those exports helped support nearly 120,000 American jobs. And as Africa continues to grow, our economic futures will become even more intertwined. Indeed, Africa's trajectory means that the theme of this week's historic summit, Investing in the Next Generation, applies as much to the United States as it does to Africa. Our shared future will be made brighter by an AGOA that is not only renewed, but also improved. Seamless renewal will send an important signal to purchasers of AGOA products and investors in AGOA industries who are already making decisions about next year, and in some cases, many years in the future. The sooner we renew our commitment, the more likely they will do the same. Improving AGOA is critical because despite the concrete benefits that AGOA has brought to both our continents, it is clear that more can and must be done. Although non-oil exports under AGOA have increased by fourfold, last year's total of $5 billion remains small, both in absolute terms and as a share of U.S. imports. And while we're seeing countries starting to branch out and use AGOA for more products, there is still much room to grow in non-oil, manufactured and value-added products from AGOA-eligible countries. Improving AGOA requires adapting to the changes that have occurred since the year 2000, applying the lessons we have learned and anticipating where current trends will take us. To begin with, it's clear that the Africa of 2014 is not the Africa of 2000. Many of you are moving away from unilateral preferences and entering into agreements with trading partners such as the European Union, which provide for reciprocal access. Going forward, we cannot think of AGOA in isolation. And that's why, for the past year, we've conducted a review of AGOA that asked not only how AGOA was working, but also how it fits into the broader arc of our trade and development policy. Our efforts relied on the input of U.S. and African stakeholders in government, the private sector, and civil society. Among our findings, one observation is clearer than the rest. To unlock AGOA's true potential, we need to do more than focus on tariff preferences. In our view, AGOA must be linked to a broader, comprehensive, coordinated trade and development strategy. What we're calling for is an AGOA compact, a whole-of-government trade and investment strategy supported by the public and private sectors on both continents and backed by our international partners. With the outline of this compact in mind, today's forum provides an extraordinary opportunity to begin filling in the details and charting a common course toward trade-led growth and development. Consider the challenges that many countries face at borders and ports. A combination of red tape, corruption, and gaps in infrastructure can make the cost and time associated with shipping product twice that of similar products coming out of competitor countries in Asia or Latin America. And that impinges upon the competitiveness of African products and undermines the capacity of trade to contribute to Africa's development. I should mention briefly here that there's a unique opportunity to multiply the benefits of AGOA through our multilateral work together in the WTO, though that opportunity has recently been cast into significant doubt. The historic Trade Facilitation Agreement, TFA, concluded just last December in Bali, allows multilaterally agreed standards to guide every country's efforts to eliminate red tape at the border. The TFA includes path-breaking flexibilities for developing countries to adapt implementation to their unique national circumstances. And it allows for the mobilization of international resources in support of those domestic efforts, including through the recently announced TFA facility at the WTO. I applaud those African countries, including the Republic of Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Morocco, and Mauritius, who are among the 40 or so developing countries leading the way in implementing the TFA by announcing their so-called Category A notifications. They're sending a powerful message to investors and to the donor community. Unfortunately, the actions of a small number of WTO members have placed this enormous opportunity in jeopardy, and I hope that Africans will help lead the effort to ensure that our hard work at Bali does not go to waste, and that the potential for both TFA and the new Trade Facilitation Agreement facility are not squandered. As part of the AGOA Compact, we also need to address problems with infrastructure, hard and soft. From the roads that MCC builds to the development of airports our Trade and Development Agency support, to very importantly, our whole-of-government, public-private Power Africa initiative to double access to affordable, reliable electricity, we here are focused on helping Africa address its deficit in hard infrastructure. And as USAID and the State Department support trade facilitation efforts to consolidate border crossings, eliminate roadblocks, both literally and figuratively, we're helping to improve Africa's soft infrastructure. We recognize the need for capacity building, including by USDA and USAID strengthening laboratories and training inspectors so that African farmers and manufacturers can better meet the agricultural and technical standards necessary to export their products to global markets. And as the Secretary said, there's also a need to build human capacity. Africa is on the path to become the largest contributor to the world's workforce by 2050. And translating that potential into broad-based growth requires equipping the next generation of African exporters with the skills they need to succeed. I was honored to participate in a panel on entrepreneurship at a meeting of the Young Africa Leaders Initiative last week here in Washington. And I'm delighted that some of the incredibly impressive participants of that program will be here with us today. YALI and the African Women's Entrepreneurship Program are just two examples of our interest in not just taking resources out of Africa, but investing in human capital in Africa. And there's a need to increase demand for AGOA products, including by supporting larger regional markets and by working with the private sector to better integrate African producers into regional and global value chains. As I've said, this is a whole-of-government effort on our side, and I know it can be bewildering at times to deal with all of our different agencies. So we'll be looking to build upon our trade hubs to create one-stop-shop trade and investment platforms, which will work to bring advice, financing, and trade promotion to AGOA entrepreneurs. Of course, the renewal of AGOA lies at the core of this strategy, and our review has identified 4 areas in which this core might be strengthened so that beneficiary countries can better utilize and diversify their exports. Now, as all of you know, it falls to Congress to decide what changes ultimately will be made. But we believe that our review and your efforts to examine the same questions and our discussion today can greatly inform the work of Congress. First, AGOA would be strengthened by a reauthorization period, both for the third country fabric rule and for the preference program itself, which is sufficiently long to ensure predictability for producers, consumers, and investors. Second, there may be value in revisiting the list of covered products under the program to see if we can add any new products. In 2006, for example, AGOA was expanded to include over 700 additional tariff lines, mostly in the textile and apparel area, which brought significant new market access opportunities to Africa. But we also need to keep this issue in perspective. The existing range of products eligible for duty-free treatment under AGOA is already more extensive than under any other U.S. preference program. Almost all AGOA beneficiaries have duty-free access for 97.5% of all tariff lines, and there are only 316 dutiable tariff lines at present out of a total of over 10,700. The majority of these remaining lines cover agricultural and textile products, many of which have historically been some of the most import-sensitive, which is why we'll be consulting closely with domestic stakeholders in the coming months. Third, there may be ways to streamline AGOA's rules of origin requirements to make them more flexible. These requirements are already very generous, including the broad third country fabric exception for apparel, but some limitations remain. Removing limitations like those on the accumulation of labor costs or the percentage of U.S. content could provide beneficiary countries greater flexibility and help integrate them into regional and U.S. supply chains. Finally, it's important to update AGOA's eligibility criteria and processes. Both have promoted critical political and economic reforms throughout sub-Saharan Africa, but neither has ever been substantially updated. We believe that the criteria can be strengthened to better promote open trade and broad-based economic growth, for example, by resolving SPS barriers to trade and promoting fundamental worker rights. The review process can also be updated to allow for more effective enforcement, for example, by allowing partial and more timely withdrawal rather than all or nothing withdrawal that goes into effect the year following the decision. Even as we discuss these programmatic changes and AGOA's renewal, we must also use today's meeting to begin a new discussion about the future of U.S.-Africa trade and investment relations. As Africa's trade relations with other trading partners evolve, and as other trading partners revise their preference programs to take into account the rise of emerging economies, we need to assess the impact on our relations with Africa and chart out a path for its future development. Today, we launched the official campaign for AGOA's renewal. AGOA enjoys broad-based, bipartisan, and bicameral support in Congress, and we'll be hearing from many of its congressional champions later this morning. We look forward to working with all of you to highlight the impact and promise of AGOA for Africa and the United States. And now let me turn to my friend and the Honorable Erastus Moencha, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union. Both in that position and as Secretary General of COMESA, Mr. Moencha has been a long-standing supporter of AGOA. He's testified before Congress many times and shared his ideas about how AGOA can be improved, and we look forward to hearing his opening remarks on behalf of the African Union and AGOA beneficiary countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Michael Froman, World Bank President Jim Kim, the U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman, President Donald Kaberuka of the African Development Bank, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Chief Executives of regional and economic communities, ladies and gentlemen. First, we pay tribute to the United States government for organizing this important AGOA forum, taking place 1 year before its expiry and also coinciding with the historic U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit under the theme, Investing in the Next Generation. This summit presents an excellent opportunity to extend and enhance the partnership between Africa and the USA. As a crucial hallmark, and as mentioned by Ambassador Michael Froman, since its inception, AGOA has enjoyed bipartisan support from Congress and steady engagement by administration and broad-based enthusiasm across Africa. Since 2000, it has been my privilege to be associated with the advocacy for and promotion of AGOA. Hence, like many in this room, I'm fully cognizant of its potential as a catalyst for Africa's and U.S. economic engagement. AGOA indeed provides a good beacon around which to build a mutually beneficial trade and investment cooperation between the U.S. and Africa. On this auspicious occasion of the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, and as we seek to strengthen our partnership, let us reflect upon the rich experience of implementing AGOA over the past 14 years and jointly envision the future. This should be done within the context of Africa that is aspiring to be peaceful, integrated, and prosperous based on inclusive growth. Africa that will continue to be a young and over the next decades, a continent that aspires to enforce and strengthen good governance, respect for human rights, tolerance, justice, and rule of law. In order for Africa to develop further and prosper, it must invest in children and young people, in their health, education, skills, and technology to contribute to be productive citizens and to facilitate their voice and participation in society. It is for this reason that Africa is pursuing a skills revolution to train thousands more of its young people in all areas of human endeavor. As a continent, we realize that any post-2015 U.S.-Africa trade and investment cooperation regime must draw lessons from past frameworks and build a new arrangement taking into account the current realities of global economic environment. For example, unlike during the time when the first AGOA legislation was enacted, Africa today hosts some of the world's fastest growing economies, and it has set itself an action plan for boosting intra-African trade and the Continental Free Trade Area agenda. These are just examples, as the continent is in the process of framing the Agenda 2063, whose milestones will be achievements of not only trade frameworks, but in other socio-economic sectors, such as infrastructure, industrialization, science and technology, food and nutrition security, and so on. It is in this context that AGOA should be viewed. What have we learned from the implementation of AGOA since 2000? Previous speakers have all spoken about what AGOA has done in terms of its impact on U.S. trade, foreign direct investment, and job creation. Imports from AGOA countries have grown from 8.2 million in 2001 to 26 million in 2013. During the same period, the performance of trade sector strengthened, and so was foreign direct investment in most AGOA countries. U.S. foreign direct investment stock in sub-Saharan Africa increased from US $9 billion in 2001 to $35 billion in 2012, and over 400,000 jobs created in Africa and in the US. Although these statistics cannot tell the full story of AGOA in terms of the lives it touched and changed, we also recognize that we could have done more. That is why this forum is important in sharing experience with a view to building on the positive aspects and confronting challenges. In light of the above, we appreciate what you, Ambassador Froman, you have just said, and comments made and commitment to go beyond trade measures to look at supply-side constraints such as infrastructure and the need for capacity building. We also agree on the need to address specific trade provisions such as product coverage, rules of origin, eligibility, and support for regional integration. Indeed, product coverage under AGOA, particularly in the case of LDCs, offers very limited additional coverage over and above what they already enjoy under the generalized system of preferences. Market access for a number of agricultural products of particular interest to Africa, such as groundnuts, tuna, sugar, tobacco, remain blocked by the continued presence of high tariffs outside of very limited tariff quotas. The issue of cotton, of course, remains a key concern for Africa. It is also evident that AGOA tariff preferences are not enough for Africa to penetrate the global and product supply chain system. The low utilization of AGOA arises from other constraints such as inadequate and high cost of infrastructure, high cost of doing business, non-tariff barriers, particularly with regards to agricultural products, and low productivity of labor. Addressing these cardinal issues requires, among others, increased investment into Africa and improved trade facilitation within Africa and the rest of the world. The resolution of these challenges through an enhanced AGOA will enable the Africa-US trade partnership to yield significant benefits for Africa and the US. The AU and its member states continue to call for an improved AGOA to ensure that trade and investment with the US takes place on a predictable, reliable, legally secure basis in order to inspire investors' confidence. The member states are also willing to engage the US to develop a joint and more comprehensive trade and investment cooperation framework that will complement the efforts of African countries to realize transformational change in their economies, support regional integration efforts, especially on critical infrastructure and in trade facilitation, and enable the speedy conclusion of the Continental Free Trade Area. lead to increased business-to-business and people-to-people exchange between the U.S. and Africa, foster value addition of African exports, and provide for mechanisms to monitor the implementation of jointly agreed actions. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, the global trading system is undergoing significant change. The advent of plurilateral trade agreements within a context of an uncertain Doha development agenda are critical developments which will impact on Africa's ability to enhance its share of global trade. It is therefore within the context of our partnership to find ways to exchange notes on these important issues. In conclusion, the litmus test to the success of our partnership will be its ability to improve the quality of life, including safety and security of the people of the United States, Africa, and the rest of the world. The external risks and shocks we face, such as climate change, conflict, and other conditions, can be better managed through a visionary and dynamic partnership of equals built on a common heritage, values, and aspirations. Finally, let me quote an African proverb that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Our partnership is to build a strong foundation that will guarantee better quality of life for this and future generations, which is what AGOA Forum is about. I thank you for your kind attention.
Well, thank you, Deputy Chair Mwencha, and thank you and your colleagues at the African Union for all that you are doing to promote regional integration within Africa and stronger economic ties with the United States and global markets as well. I think at this point, our friends from the press are going to leave us.